Hello and welcome to this video where we are going to code and clean the data that we collected. As you can see here in my screen, this is the original data set that we are going to work with in this first video. So I think what you can do is follow every step that I do. Also open this file, this Excel file in your computer and follow everything that I do. In the end, we should end up with the same file, with the same data. So first of all, if we take a look at what we have here on the heading, we have each of the questions that we ask. So it's literally copy paste from there, the original question from the survey. And then on the lines, we have the answers. As you can see, we have, I think it's 302 answers. So what we will start with is with the first question. This first question is very important because this is the consent. So we can only include the answers where the respondents say, yes, I want to, I agree with participating in this. So to check that, go and click here on data and then click filter. And then it will automatically apply this small arrow in each column. So we can use that to check if everyone agreed or if there is a different answer. As you can see here, everyone agreed. There is no one who say do not agree. So that's very good. That means that we can use all the data. And that question is only useful for that to kind of filter if we need to remove someone or not. But we don't need to remove anyone. So what I will do is just remove this column, everything. You can select all the column, control minus, and then you remove that, or you double click and then delete. Right click and delete. And in the Mac probably you have another way to do it. So the next thing that we need to do now this will be the second step, is to start coding the data. Because as you can see here, the answer is male or female. We can also click here. We also have someone who said prefer not to say. So what we will do is to code that into something that the computer can understand. Maybe from the lecture you remember that there are dummy variables. Dummy variables are variables that can only be 0 or 1. So I think we can do that in here. We can use a dummy variable to code this data. And we discussed that also in that pre-recorded lecture, that with gender is a bit tricky because I mean, like many years ago, we used to think there was only 2 genders, but now we have more categories. So I think what we can do to make it easier is to label one or to assess one for whoever wrote female. And whoever wrote something that is not female, it could be male or it could be prefer not to say, that will be labeled as 0. So in the end, this will be female equals 1, 0 equals anything else. So to do that, you can go here on home and then go to find and select replace. Let me change this because I think you need to see it like this. So I think now you can see the pop-up that came here. So now you have this square where it says find and replace with. So please write female and then say replace with 1, okay? And I think, look, to don't make any mistake, select all the data in here and then do that, because then it will be better. It will only correct what you are selecting. So female will change or will be replaced with 1. Go and replace. I don't know why my computer is so slow today, super slow. 177. Double check that you have the same. And then let's do the other for male. For male, it will be 0. Male, 0. You click replace all, and then we have 127. And remember, we also have prefer not to say, right? Prefer, well, let's see, we can just go directly. And let's see if we can spot it here. Prefer not to say. We can just manually change to 0. There it is. I think it's only one. If you click in here in the small arrow, now you see that it's only 0s and 1. We don't have male, female, or anything. Now it's coded in a way that computer can understand. So just make sure that you follow that you had the same numbers that I had. And to finish, before we move on, just write GEN, because it's also important that we rename the columns for each variable in a way that we can use it in SPSS later on. Because if we keep it like that, it's going to be very crazy for SPSS. It will be very confusing. So it's better if you change the name. And usually I use this 3-letter code. It works for me. I mean, you could write gender or whatever, but try to do it like that. I think it can be a systematic way to call the columns. The next column is how old are you? So we can recall it, we can rename it as age, because this is literally what we are asking here. And I think we don't really have to do anything in here. We already have a number and we can use that number. We see that the youngest is 18, the oldest is 49. So there is no problem. There is nothing like out of like something crazy. This happened also because when I created the survey, I made sure that I put like some limitations, like for example, people could not write years, like 18 years old. If you wrote like that, it would pop an error and it wouldn't allow you to do it. But that's with age, easy to do, no problem in here. Then we have the next question. Which year did you start studying? This question is a bit tricky because we have 2021, 2022, whenever the person started studying, but that can be tricky. If we just include 2021 in the data set, it's going to be a bit messy because it's a big number. So what we can do, instead of just adding the number, we can do some coding in there. We can do something. So please include a new column next to year, next to this one. You can just select this and right click and then insert, or with Control plus. You can also do it like that. So now you have a new column, right? You have a column in here. And do this formula. Do 2025 minus this number, the number that is just behind. So 2025 minus this number. That means that this person has been studying for 4 years, okay? So you do it like that. And make sure that you have more or less the same, maybe I can make it, it looks a little bit more. Make sure that you have the same numbers that I have in here. It's just after I did that, I just copy paste everywhere, or I think automatically did it. And when you finish that, select everything, select all the data, Control copy, Control C, copy that, and move to the one square before this C2, and go to paste as values, right? And once you paste as values, now you can remove the one that you created before. This column that you created before, remove that one. You had to do this copy paste because otherwise, if you just copy, if it is a formula, it will mess up with everything. So you need to copy and paste only values, okay? So if you don't do it like that, it's going to create a problem. So copy what you calculated, but then paste as value. And then change this name of the variable. Let's call it YEA, like year, and then that's fine. The next question is if they are studying at Jönköping University. We can rename this variable as uni from university. And what we have in here is only yes and no. So it's maybe you already know what we are going to do in here. Select all this data, go to find and select, and then replace. And find what? Find yes, replace with 1. Usually dummies, when it's yes or no, usually yes is 1 and no is 0. So click replace all. Make sure that you have selected the date. 247. Make sure you also have the same numbers. No, replace with 0. 55. Make sure you have those numbers. Now we move to the next variable. The next variable is called which level are you currently studying? For this variable, maybe we can rename it as LEB, level. We can do it like that. And then if you open, we have 3 levels, bachelor, master, and PhD. So I think this variable is what we call a ranking variable from the lecture, a variable that the number one will tell you this is the first step, number two is the second step, number three is the first step, but that the distance between one and two is not the same. It only tells you what comes first and what comes second. It's like in a race, the first place and the second place and the third place, the distance between them might not be the same, but you only know who came first, who came second, who came first. The same logic is in here. Bachelor is first, master is the second thing, and PhD is the third degree that you get. It doesn't mean that it's exactly the same distance, difficulty, nothing. It only tells you what comes first, what comes second. So to code that, we also have to select all the data and then go to find and select, replace. And then we can start with bachelor. So write bachelor and replace with one because it's the first level, right? So replace all. 218, make sure you have that. The next one, master, let's replace with 2. And finally, PhD, replace with 3. It's 10 replacements, okay? And now we finish. You can always double check when you finish if there is nothing weird, nothing strange, but no, 1, 2, 3, that's perfect. Now we have another, were you born in Sweden? We can rename this variable as SWE, as in Sweden, and then we can already do the coding. So we select all the data, we go to find and select, replace, and then it's a dummy. So yes equals 1 if you are born in Sweden. So 150, no equals 0. 152. Very interesting numbers, almost 50-50. Now let's go to the next question. Have you completed any international study experience? Maybe we can rename this variable as int, like international experience. So we do the same, right? We go to, you select the data, find and select, replace, and then yes equals, yes replace with 1, 140, no replace with 0, 162. And that's it with the control variables. We finish coding the control variables. And in this case, the most difficult variables to handle are the control variables. You will see why. So to finish with this process, this is just something I like to do. I will select all the data that I just finished coding, and I will change the color to orange. I will do it just because I like to do it like that. It's just my preference, but I mean, you don't have to do it like that. Sometimes I also like to add this thing like a line in here just to differentiate, like these are the control variables and the rest are the variables that I will use. So now the next thing that we need to do is going to be easier. And this is also because we have very good survey. In the survey, we have questions that go from 1 to 10. And that applies for everything, for global mindset, materialism, collective, everything is like that, 1 to 10. So that is good. We don't really have to do anything in here. Everything is going to work perfectly. So we can actually start just changing the name of the variables to GMS1, because this is global mindset 1. You can see in here on the top, GMS2. You can do it like that, GMS2, GMS3, GMS4, and so on, collectivism 1, collectivism 2, and just do it like that. I don't want to waste a lot of time. Maybe I will just copy paste from another file that I have. Give me 1 second now, computer is slow, but I can just copy paste from the other data set that I have. So I will just copy paste, right? So collectivism 1, collectivism 2, collectivism 3, like that. So we only change the name a little bit. Now you have professional aspirations. And now finally, maybe I just can play a little bit with the colors. So I will select the global mindset until here, and then I will maybe change to blue. Or which one is blue? The other one, I think I have it in the file. And then for the other variables, I can do the same. And I think I use yellow like this. And maybe I can even add the line if I mean, they can do what you want, like a little bit of, can fail, can do a little bit of this and that. But in the end, your file should look like this. Make sure that you do it like this. I just need to warn you about two things that could happen. They are not in this exercise. They are not these things are not going to affect what happened in this data set because it's not a problem for this, but it's good that you know them. Two things that you need to be careful. Do you remember that I told you in the lecture, I think, that is, or the pre-recorded lecture, that sometimes we can ask a question where we have inverse coded questions. For example, I can ask, how happy are you from 1 to 10? And if you say 10, that means you are very happy. And then I can ask an inverse question. I can ask, how sad are you? So if you say 10, that means you're actually not happy. That's very bad. If you're happy, you will say 1, I'm not sad. You know what I mean? It's an inverse question. So if you have something like that in your survey, you need to recalculate whatever happens in here. Let's assume that the last question of professional aspiration is just an assumption. That is not the case. In our survey, all the questions were 1 was the lowest and 10 was the highest. No problem. We didn't have this type of questions, but if you have it, you need to solve it like this. Open a new column next to the one that you want to calculate and then do 11 minus this number, like this. And then, well, here, I don't know if it automatically copies everything, but that's what you will have in the end. As you can see, this kind of inverses or reverses the value. So if someone has answered 10, then you can reflect it in the correct way. This only applies when you are dealing with inverse coded questions. Again, I repeat, an inverse coded question is if you ask the opposite. So the example is, if I want to know how happy you are and I ask you, are you sad? That is an inverse coded question. The more you answer, the sadder you are. That means you are actually less happy. So it's the opposite. That is one thing that you need to remember with inverse coded questions. And the other thing that you need to know is that there are categorical variables. We also don't have them here because we usually have only 1 or 2 options. Like, for example, internship experience, international experience, you have or not. And there is nothing in between. But it could be possible that you have something where you have more than 2 categories. Like maybe you are asking, in which industry are you working? In the and it's retail, industry, and services. So you see there are 3 different ones. You cannot do like we did in level. You cannot label 1 to retail, 2 to services, 3 to industry. You cannot do it like that because if you do it like that, you are kind of telling the computer program to SPSS that one is more than the other, and that is not true. If that happens, you will need to create dummies for each of the possibilities. So one dummy for the retail industry, yes or no? And then you need to redo the coding. So my suggestion is try to avoid this type of questions in your surveys because then you will have a lot of variables and you'll have a lot of dummy variables. If you want to get the industry where they come from, just ask if they come from services or non-services. That is enough. Try not to bring many options. With the level of studies, we can do this, like 1, 2, 3, because the level of studies actually reflects what comes after. So it's possible to do it like that. We can treat them, it's a ranking variable, so or ordinal variable, we can do it like that. But with the industry, we couldn't do it. So it's better just to ask, are you service industry or not? For example, in university, that's why we ask, are you John Shopping University student or not? Because if we include it more, like Stockholm, I don't know, like Lund, blah, blah, we will have to do one variable for each of the universities and then many, many dummies. So I think that would take a lot of time. So that's it. That's the coding. The next step, the next video is to pass the data from here to SPSS, and I will show you how to do it in another video.